Before we get into this next episode, I've got a couple of things I want to talk about. The first is that I think most people realize these videos aren't exactly in real time. What you're watching generally happened a few months ago. But this video is going to be different. This one is actually in real time. All of this just happened. So before we get into this one, I just want to say a couple of things about our road trip from this summer. Really, for us, an adventure's an adventure, no matter where it happens. If we're seeing new things and having fun, that's all we really care about. And I'm still going to keep putting out those road trip videos just because we went to some really amazing places, and we like to share that with you. So I'm still going to try to do those, but what I'm also going to try to do is start up again with the sailing videos and see if I can get those out in closer to real time. For a little while, there's going to be road trip videos and sailing videos coming out, hopefully, because the big thing is, well, first of all, it takes a lot of time to put these together. But the other thing is, especially now that we're in Mexico, internet access is hard for us to come by. We generally use our cell phones, and we have to be in one place long enough with a good enough cell signal to upload a video. In general, these videos take 20 to 30 hours of cell phone data to upload, and as you can imagine, that's hard for us to sit around sometimes waiting for those to go. But we'll see how it goes. I'm going to give it my best shot. So the other thing I want to talk about really quick is our plans. We've been out traveling full-time for over 3.5 years now, and the one thing I can tell you with 100% certainty is plans change all the time for us. If you would have asked me 4 or 5 years ago, before we left, where we would be about this time now, I probably would have said Southeast Asia. We thought we'd be a lot farther along by now. But there's just too much to see along the way, and we're enjoying taking our time. So having said that, what our thought is that from where we are in San Carlos, Mexico, we're planning on heading south and being in Central America by spring. So that's that. Here's our sailing video. We're back. We're back on the water. It's exciting.
After 3 weeks of stinking up my brother's house while using his internet to stock up on boat parts to bring back to Mexico with us, we begin Season 2. And we start Season 2 with a couple of simple goals. Getting back to our home sweet home and simply getting her in the water and floating again.
Here we go, almost ready to sit 12 hours on a Mexican bus. Thanks for the ride, big brother. Good riddance, that's what he's thinking. Get out of my house.
After spending the last 4 months camping our way around the United States and the last few weeks invading my brother's house, Mexico's hurricane season was over and we were heading home.
Thanks. Love you too. Thanks for everything.
We hopped on a bus in Phoenix, Arizona, and 12 hours later, we made it to San Carlos, Mexico, where we woke up to this.
It's official. We're back in Mexico. We've been gone for 4 months. Our boat's been sitting on the hard, and we're almost back there. I've lived on a boat since I was 20, and if you're doing the math, that's a long time. 23 years. Brenda and I have been together for almost 18 years now. 18 years? 18 years of pure joy. We've lived on the boat basically the entire time. So no matter where in the world the boat is, it's home. And there's no place like home. Everybody knows that. So hopefully this thing's not a wreck after 4 months sitting in the yard. We're about to find out. Oh, push, pull.
We checked in at the office and then made our way back through the dusty, dirty workyard where our home sweet home was waiting.
No bugs flying out. It's a miracle. Doesn't even smell bad in here.
It smells a little musty.
A little musty, but not bad for 4 months being locked up.
Oh, there's a spider that's coming to live.
Oh, good. Home sweet home. We made it.
And now that we're back, it was time to get to work. Brenda started in by restitching a bunch of our canvas that looked a little worse for the wear thanks to Mexico's brutal sun. After it was all stitched up, it was back on the boat it went. While Brenda was busy restitching our canvas, I had my own list of things to do.
Okay, got lots of little projects, little improvements. I'll put in some of these USB plugs right down here.
Since pretty much all of our little electronic devices, our phones, our cameras, our GPS, VHF, everything charges with USB now, we're putting in these little USB charging outlets. Our inverter, it's a Magnum 2000 watt inverter, which is pretty efficient. It still takes a couple of amps just to be turned on. So on a little phone that takes a half an amp to charge, uses a couple amps to the inverter on top of that, just seems inefficient.
These little USB outlets are wired directly to our house battery bank through a fuse and a switch, and there's no wasted electricity powering the inverter. And what do you know? They work like a champ. But it can't be all about work. Since Mexico's cruising season is back in full swing, it's nice to see some familiar faces.
Look who's here, it's Molly!
Oh, good to see you.
Come here.
Hi.
How are you?
Our good friends from SV Ripple, well, they spent the summer back in the States too. And now that we're all back in Mexico, it's time to celebrate.
Nice to see you. Look who we found!
Yay!
It's Ben's birthday!
You guys made it down finally.
Yeah, hallelujah. Hallelujah!
So, as you can imagine, there's quite a bit of stuff that's got to get done before the boat goes back in the water, and I'm not going to bore you with all of those little projects. But there's one major thing we're having done while the boat's on the hard. We're having the entire bottom stripped, epoxy coated, and then repainted. This boat's 35 years old, and after 35 years of bottom paint buildup, we've got some flaky chunks, big patches that were coming off at the end of last season, and it's just got to get done. This has been on our list for the entire time we've had the boat, and now we're finally doing it. Since I know some of you are going to ask about cost, quality, that sort of thing with a yard down here in Mexico. Cost-wise, we had an estimate up in the States for a little over $6,000 to have the entire bottom stripped and epoxy coated and painted. Down here in Mexico, the quote was for $3,000. So it's about half the price, and as far as quality goes, it seems like they're doing a great job. They seem to know what they're doing, and it looks great. We're going to see how it holds up.
After 2 coats of epoxy primer and a couple of coats of bottom paint, the tractor came in and picked up the boat so they could move the stands and get to all the bare spots. And while the yard was working on the bottom, we were working on the cabin sole. This is a project we started about a year ago and never quite got around to the final coat. And it's also a project that took us into the wee hours of the morning. The next morning, it was back to the boatyard for what could be one of my favorite bits of maintenance, changing the zincs. After over 20 years of living on and doing my best to maintain a sailboat, for some reason, changing the zincs has always been oddly satisfying. I don't know what it is about it, but this little job always seems fun and never gets old. But the best part about being back in Mexico, well, that always happened right about noon. We hopped on our little folding bikes, pedaled our way into town, and searched out the best spot for lunch.
Tacos, how I've missed you!
Here goes Molly. Don't be scared.
Famous last words.
Yeah, right.
With Molly and Ben from SV Ripple and us all back in Mexico and needing quite a bit of supplies, we finagled a pickup truck from another cruiser and made our way into Guaymas. First stop, filling up propane tanks. Once the tanks were full, we had to go check out the city of Guaymas.
Driving through Guaymas. It's nice and sweaty.
Very sweaty.
Nice driving, Molly, nice driving!
So far.
Guaymas is a busy industrial port town that has just about anything you could need. And it was a great place to take a break from boat projects while finding some of the best tacos around. And since we still had access to that pickup truck, we loaded it up with enough food to make it through a zombie apocalypse. With our cupboards full, a freshly painted bottom, and lots of little projects completed, we were ready to go back in the water. And the guys who painted the bottom, well, they assured me blue was the fastest color, and we were getting pretty anxious to try it out. We spent the past 4 months living on dry land, and even with all the fun we had, there's still no place like home. So, the next morning, it was time. The tide would be high, and there would be just enough water under our keel to launch. The workyard in San Carlos is roughly a half a mile from the water. So, with a big old tractor and a heavy-duty hydraulic lift trailer, they load you up, then drag you down the road all the way to the boat launch. And if I'm gonna be completely honest, it just doesn't seem natural to see your floating home going backwards down the highway. Well, that's it. We're floating again. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.